Greetings, superior beings, greetings, supreme being. Welcome to Universal Peace Television. So, today the broadcast is about the question, what are the G20 protests in Hamburg about? I will start with my own writings. I've written thousands of articles for Universal Peace, of course. So I switch to display capture. We can see the broadcast is working. I'll have to check if there are still too many dropouts. I've seen that this dropped frames is sometimes at 8% or something really weird. So they're definitely messing with it. They've built stuff into my PC, computer viruses, or they've built it with wireless energy. They can change the ones and zeros, of course. So they can do things with the operating system that the operating system cannot. So here's my latest article. That's a short article, and then I will cover what the protests are about.
Writings for Universal Peace 2017-4. We have to fight together for the sake of our destruction. Lol. Freemasons kidnapping children. Why are the Freemasons collecting our children's DNA? HuffingtonPost.com. Masonic child identification programs. Wikipedia. Masonic child abuse by design. PCFBC.org. Almost whole pedophiles are Freemasons. Vertical bar. Muslims. NewWorld.com. Pedophiles can successfully groom children online within minutes. Independent.co.uk. Nearly everyone on UK paedophile ring list is a Freemason, says abuse victim. Warrickange.org. Catholic Church sex abuse cases by country. Wikipedia. Catholic Church sex abuse scandals around the world. BBC News. Most Faithful Moron. September 23, 2017. The Greatest 10 Times. Signed Steve Shiakalandi and Discover Ministries. 857,490 views. The number of YouTube views can quite easily be manipulated upwards. Do not trust the YouTube counter nor any other counter. NSA has wireless energy technology and synthetic telepathy to manipulate everything and everybody. The whole government is criminal. Must see DC, HD streamed, June 5, 2017 at 9:00 a.m. Freemasons and witchcraft indoctrinated with the same Jewish doctrine. Freemasons worship Lucifer as Lucifer. 2184 views. Thinking about making new hospital appointment at different hospitals or slaughterhouses. Doctors are depopulators, people haters. Hospitals are in the top 10 of main causes of death twice. Prescription drugs, leading killer in the USA. Misdiagnosis, medical errors, a leading cause of death. Dr. Harold F. Shipman, a Jewish doctor that killed over 400 of his patients, may not be the only doctor that murdered large amounts of patients. The doctor of the AMC, Arnon Kater, is working with SciTech, a company involved with nanotechnology possibly tied to the DoD and HIMARS, remotely controlled insects, hybrid insect microelectric mechanical systems. This would be a top secret aka black project they are not allowed to talk about if it's real, and the doctors are directed by the neural network, which tells them what to do and say and also controls their minds to a certain extent with synthetic telepathy. They're controlled with torture and hypnosis like everybody else, especially people in the environment of targeted individuals are controlled. About 1 in 4 of us are Muslim, about 23.4% of us Jews, less than 0.2% of world population. JewishPress.com. Yet 90% of the mainstream media is supposedly owned by Jews, and Jews are overrepresented among the best paid jobs. Jews, less than 0.2% of world population. JewishPress.com. About 43% of the world's Jewish community lives in Israel, according to a study by Hebrew University's Professor Sergio Della Pergola. The global Jewish population reached 13.75 million in the past year, with an increase of 88,000 people. Israel's Maariv newspaper published excerpts of the study last week, reporting that 1 out of every 514 people in the world is Jewish, less than 0.2% of mankind. About 43% of the world's Jewish community lives in Israel, making Israel the country with the largest Jewish population. The Israeli Central Bureau of Statistics reported on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, 5773, that the total population of Israel in 2012 grew to nearly 8 million. About 73% of the population is native-born. If you do not believe in any deity, you do not believe in the concept of a chosen people. I do not believe in being Jewish. I do not believe in the whole concept, and I think mutilating children, circumcision, should be made illegal. Most people believe Jews exist and they believe in the lie that they are Jewish themselves. What I'm saying is, we should stop blaming old Jewish people and start blaming Jesuits and Masons and expose these people, the things they have done and their names. I'm struggling with 4K every day, lol. Does anyone the name of that track Dread Zoned at Brighton that has the greater than phrase I've been hypnotized repeated over a stonking beat? Have they greater than recorded it, and if so, where can I find it? It was Mendel, greater than sounds like Fight the Power. Try the maximum EP, for Fight the Power 95. Proof ISIS is fake. Anonymous. We the people 1 year ago 453 views. Fake ISIS army of 7-footers. Fox News forced to admit video was fake. 1 Hamza H. Green, Slay Your Dragon 1 year ago 143 views. SFIL 10, Professor James Tracy PhD, ISIS or fake. Stop funding Israel 1 year ago 34,448 views. Proof that CNN is ISIS. Endless examples of fake news on CNN. Mike Cernovich 2 weeks ago 38,524 views. ISIS is fake. Green screen terrorism. Ace captive 2 months ago 1,210 views. ISIS propaganda. 540 million paid to Bell Pottinger or firm for fake ISIS videos. Nico Clear 8 months ago 188 views. Russian leaked video proof. CR ISIS actors fake mess at 105 views. CNN is ISIS. MSNBC is ISIS. Fox is ISIS. Fake news. Syria edition PT2 dissenter 601 views. New. She blinded me with Zion's 0. Gravity, plane, lunadidal interval for Zandvoort is 1610, for Siveningen 334. Calculated using Mijdrecht as location. Leaving daylight savings time off using lunitidal-interval.com. High tide in Siveningen is about 40 minutes earlier than in Zandvoort using Russian leaked video proof. CR ISIS actors fake mess at 105 views. CNN is ISIS. MSNBC is ISIS. Fox is ISIS. Fake news. Syria edition PT2 dissenter 601 views. New. She blinded me with Zion's 0. Gravity, plane, lunadidal interval for Zandvoort is 1610, for Siveningen 334. Calculated using Mijdrecht as location. Leaving daylight savings time off using lunitidal-interval.com. High tide in Siveningen is about 40 minutes earlier than in Zandvoort using jettage.rws.nl and zandvoort.biz/n/tidezebflood.php. Your real Sholomi, Pati, anti-capitalista, Auschwitz are streets. Some 30 demonstrations have been announced before and during the meeting, organized by anti-globalization activists and environmentalists, trade unions, students and church groups. Late Thursday, police detained 6 people for throwing bottles at officers as about 11,000 protesters marched through Hamburg to techno music under the banner I'd rather dance than G20. Tractor Wrangler Soros bounced. Trooper? The Russians? EZ88 ? Ask yourself. Why did Merkel let them all in? I did it. Mir. Knights of Malta is no fraternal organization, has the likes of Reinhard Gehlen, Nazi, Joe Biden, David Rockefeller, Bush, Clinton. July 17, 2012, Groucho Marx said, please accept my resignation. I don't care to belong to a club that would have me as a member. You really have to wonder what kind of person, though, would care to belong to a club, or fraternal organization, as Alex dismissed the Knights of Malta as, that boasts a membership that is a who's who throughout history of elite intelligence agents, and architects of the New World Order. Wonder, if you truly are a liberty-loving American, anyways, would you care to be in a club in which you would be breathing the same air as the likes of grave robber of Geronimo's remains, Prescott Bush, posthumous, Skull and Bones, George H.W. Bush, Skull and Bones, Bill Clinton, David Rockefeller, Reinhard Gehlen, posthumous, Nazi intelligence chief brought to the U.S. in Operation Paperclip, and maintained free reign over his own intelligence organization in the U.S., William Casey, Michael Chertoff, Tony Blair, Wild Bill Donovan, CIA founder, Alan Dulles, CIA founder, and fired from CIA by J.F. Kennedy before his assassination, Joe Biden, William Randolph Hearst, Robert Zoellick, Heinrich Himmler. Nazis didn't wear Maltese crosses on their uniforms randomly, Henry Kissinger, Henry Luce, Time Magazine, Skull and Bones, Lord Christopher Walter Monckton, Alex Regular, Pat Buchanan, Alex Regular, August Pinochet Oliver North, Antonin Scalia Amschelmeyer von Rothschild, George Tenet J. Edgar Hoover, Fritz Tyson, primary funder of the Nazi movement, and Frank Sinatra. Well, anyways, I could probably chill with Frank, if he was still around. They completely give up their own will, and pledge to be as obedient as a corpse to the Pope. Creepy, huh? Planet.infowars.com. The truth is, the Jesuits of Rome have perfected Freemasonry to be their most magnificent and effective tool, accomplishing their purposes among Protestants. John Daniel, in The Grand Design Exposed, 1999, p. 302, in.wikicode.org/wiki/Freemasonry. Events from the year 1776 in the United States. This year is celebrated in the United States as the official beginning of its nationhood, with a Declaration of Independence issued on July 4. Wiki/1776_in_the_United_States, Freemasons in Law Enforcement, Deadly Tools of the Jesuits. JohnSRSI.com, CBGFABDE, HI and ILMNOP. Vatican police break up homosexual orgy at home of key advisor to Pope Francis. Daily Stormer.com, the global depopulation and torture conspiracy as it has been and is, essential monotheism. Are they trying to blame deaths and cancer caused by radiation and directed energy weapons on bread and potatoes because they are eaten by most people? German police used water cannon and pepper spray to disperse anti-capitalist protesters after clashes with police broke out in Hamburg just as world leaders, including Donald Trump, Xi Jinping, and Recep Tayyip Erdogan, started to arrive in Germany's second city for the G20 summit. They are too lazy for a pro-capitalist demo. The annual summit, which consists of a series of formal and informal meetings between world leaders, often results in protests by advocacy groups calling for change on a variety of topics such as environmental policies, trade deals and labor laws. Why do the events attract protests? The protests center around an idea of corporate greed and anti-capitalist views, Kulik said. And Frank Sinatra.
So, I've tried to play this video. There are at least two 360-degree panorama videos of the protests in Hamburg. But then the speech engine cannot read anymore. It's also broadcasting, so the CPU capacity is too limited. Donations are welcome via my my blog, universalpeace.gmail.com, and this is the Pano camera. This is the downloaded version. So on YouTube you see a part of this video, and you can pan the camera to where you want to, and this is the whole video now. That affects the dropped frames rate. Press still 151 dropped frames. So we see groups in black. So that makes me think Antifa or provocateurs. These are police officers dressed in civilian, often black, covering their face completely, smashing windows, which is to impose the totalitarian global government upon us all, to create the conditions for martial law, etc. That's phase 3 of active measures, ideological conversion, by Yuri Besmanov. Phase 3 is the crisis, and phase 4 is normalization, is when the tanks roll in. So in the description of this video you can also find what the opposite would be of their strategy. Basically, the opposite would be moralization, that's phase 1, phase 2 stabilization, phase 3 generating an economic surge, the opposite of crisis, and phase 4 is demilitarization. The opposite of normalization is when the tanks roll in. So that's what we need to create that cure against aging, control 23 factors that control aging, and the perfect society in which we all will live happily eternally. And the other 360 panel video, they're quite short, so it takes time to convert panorama to this format basically, and then it takes even more time to upload it, especially if it's 4K. Then it takes time to... Oh, and this is played like by the pod player. The other video was not. So here you see the biker. You can choose the... but I want to show the whole video, the whole panorama. So then, what are these protests about? I've also been thinking, are these protests organized by them? Also the riots to impose a totalitarian regime via people they control. So people are being controlled with synthetic telepathy. More about it in my previous broadcasts. And I wanted to cover this article. So this is on globalnews.ca. G20 protests why the international summit attracts so much anger. And then we can use the speech engine on the side. Okay.
G20 protests. Why the international summit attracts so much anger. Protesters are taking to the streets in Hamburg, Germany for the Group of 20, G20, summit, and it's not the first time the World Leaders Summit has attracted demonstrations. The annual summit, which consists of a series of formal and informal meetings between world leaders, often results in protests by advocacy groups calling for change on a variety of topics such as environmental policies, trade deals and labor laws. Julia Kulik, a researcher with the University of Toronto's Munk School of Global Affairs, says most international summits attract similar protests. Why do the events attract protests? The protests center around an idea of corporate greed and anti-capitalist views, Kulik said. The G20 was founded to make globalization for the benefit of all, said Kulik, but after actions such as big bank bailouts the public became less confident that the summit is for the people. Kulik adds that many protesters want the summit to expand its agenda beyond traditional economic issues and address issues affecting the poor. Transparency issues. There is often a lack of trust in government leaders to make decisions in the best interest of the public, and that is heightened by the fact that many of the summit's meetings are private.
So remember to mistrust or distrust authority, because people have been killed for questioning authority.
Kulik says that 99% of what leaders do happens behind closed doors, and press conferences are littered with political jargon. Seeing 20 to 21 people making decisions that affect the entire world is not appealing to a lot of people, she said, explaining that the public wants to see the path to reaching decisions. Summits are often held in countries that lack press freedom, meaning news coverage of the summit can be limited or censored. Journalists at last year's summit in China were detained, Hulick pointed out. What has happened at previous G20 summits? Protests are generally a part of world leaders' meetings, but high-profile summits attract the most demonstrations. In 2009, the G20 summit in London, UK grew tense when riot police charged on a sit-down protest in the city centre. An estimated 4,000 people demonstrated in the city's financial district before the summit even began. Following the summit, there were allegations of police brutality on protesters, and several officers were reprimanded. A year later, the summit drew a similar scene in Toronto, when protests erupted through the city. The protests and large police presence led to the largest mass arrest in Canadian history, with more than 1,000 people sent to a detention centre. A report later found that police violated civil rights and detained some protesters illegally. While every G20 meeting attracts protests, not all become violent or controversial.
We need a new visionary
Protests were relatively peaceful at the 2014 Brisbane summit, Hulick says, explaining that location often plays a part in how heated demonstrations become. Australia is geographically isolated, meaning many people can't easily travel there. What is expected at this year's G20 meeting? About 4,000 marched through Hamburg Sunday, protesting climate and trade policies of the world's largest economies. The demonstration, which also saw protesters take to the water with a flotilla of hundreds of small boats, was organized by environmental, labor, human rights and church groups. Authorities are putting in place tight security and declaring certain areas of Hamburg off-limits to protesters during the 7th, 8th of July summit. According to the Telegraph, about 20,000 officers will be on guard for potential terror attacks or should protests turn violent. Hulick says it is possible things will escalate further because Germany is easily accessible to protesters from around Europe. Because of Germany's history, it'll be very hard to stop people from assembling, the researcher says, noting that the country likely won't want to be seen as limiting freedom of speech or demonstration. With files from the Associated Press.
I've also seen a police officer beat up protesters, several police officers with batons beating one protester. So why are they doing that and not arresting them? Kommunismus nicht sein.
Kevin Quinlan must be the difference between what real freedom is, compared to what happens in a tyrannical state. Anti-tyranny protesters almost everywhere, like Ukraine and Venezuela, are forced to burn and destroy the forces of repression attacking them. Anti-government protesters all across Russia were viciously arrested when they even thought about lighting it up. Putin even ordered the arrest of their leader and their mascot, a rubber ducky. Even pro-tyranny demonstrators in Damascus didn't do much at all until the car bombs went off. Then they cleaned up the dead and wounded. It's what make us, and a few fabulously wealthy individuals who provide us WTH our ideals, so very different from them.
So, then it's still not exactly clear what the protests are about. Corporations, perhaps corporate greed, and ClimateGate plan to take people's eco-tax money that were due for another ice age, and they manipulate the weather with HARP to give the illusion that there's global warming. So these ionospheric heaters around the world that cost the taxpayer millions or even billions are there for a reason, of course. So they want to create a crisis big enough, and eco-tax money is just one of the ways. Pretending that they have to save the earth and not the people, you know. That type of people. Anyway, perhaps there are others that can tell us better what these protests are about. So these are the results when I searched on what are the G20 protests about. People can also Skype me live in this broadcast to tell me what it's about, what they think it's about. But it's clear that there were loads of people in Hamburg. But usually they try to show a small piece, pictures that show thousands of protesters are quite rare basically. And this zombie thing, to give people the illusion or subconsciously to make them believe that they are zombies, these protesters. Zombie protesters cover Hamburg streets, the hill. Ah, here we found one. ABC News, no less. Picture resolution is not that high. But there's a massive turnout, so then they must know what it's about, basically. Here we see somebody holding a planet Earth thing. But some people would argue these are the communists demonstrating, the Antifa people, etc. Not the pro-Trumpers, but there may also have been pro-Trumpers because of ClimateGate and President Trump's stance on the ClimateGate issue, the pretending that there's a climate change basically to get lots of eco-tax money, though cutting them off from the water-powered car, which is used by the military. That's the Danny Klein patent. And then giving them these slow electric cars basically that are perhaps more expensive than cancer gasoline. And the water-powered car of Danny Klein, of course, it's used by the military, is blocked by the patent office, so and other inventions are as well. So the Jesuits demolished the WTC, and they control the agencies that control their brain with synthetic telepathy. So anything they say and do or can be brain controlled with synthetic telepathy.com, because their brainwave is electromagnetic. They cannot resist or protect themselves against brainwave modification, because they're not using microwaves like so many targeted individuals are led to believe. They're just copying the lies of others. It's done with the wireless energy of Nikola Tesla's death ray, also known as scalar waves. That's the same thing in reality, which many scientists apparently don't know. They deny the existence of scalar waves, but not the existence of wireless energy, which can be used to collect energy in space with solar panels and beam it down to Earth. So then you only have to know the right frequency, and then you can have an amplifier and have free energy basically, which you can also collect from the air, but that's not enough to power your devices. That's just a little bit. Though Wilhelm Reich also supposedly knew a method to do that. So yeah, here on this picture especially we can see that there was a massive turnout at this G20 anti-G20 protest demo. And it may also have been because of good weather conditions. So people thought, well, let's walk along, perhaps some of them. Kapitalismus kann Mensch nicht heilen. Bekämpfen. Well, the question is if there is a better system than capitalism. You've seen why communism doesn't work, and the pedo elite just wants power to the pedo. They want centralization instead of decentralization, power to the people. They want to give themselves more power, and everybody is brain controlled by them, so it's best not to listen to them and make up your own mind about this stuff. And their cancer chemtrail genocide continues. Also, my day at the beach was ruined because of that. We didn't see the sunset, etc. So they're ruining everything for everybody in a number of ways. And before 1998 there were no cancer chemtrails of the CIA. The CIA's evergreen aviation. But you can see on pictures and video of before 1998, you don't see these long lines in the sky proving they are not contrails, cancer contrails, which is what they pretend. So cancer chemtrails are not a conspiracy theory, they're a conspiracy fact, and usually I use it in my broadcast as long as it's going on. That's one of the best examples, proven beyond any reasonable doubt, and you can collect some rainwater to find out what the ingredients are. And then you might also find ethylene dibromide to sterilize the population, etc. And usually these cancer chemtrails are only dispersed above large cities, not in other places for some reason. Though they pretend it's for geoengineering, climate control basically. Apparently it's for other reasons, mainly to depopulate the Earth, which is just about behind everything they do. To reduce the world's global population to a more controllable number, so they're after more control, total control. So it's done by Jesuits and Masons that have infiltrated the government, and they are higher in rank, therefore the whole government is terroristic, tyrannical, and they are slaves of the people with the torture machine. It's like having a gun, virtual gun, pressed to their head. It can go off and it really kills. So they are able to remotely kill people as well. And lots of people do what the torturers want and are trying to do what the voice in their heads tells them to do. So, so the weather you're having, extreme heat and drought, cancer chemtrails that keep the rain from falling, making it cloudy all day, giving people winter depression. That's all done deliberately. They are tyrants, depopulating the earth, and they enjoy eating infants and torturing people, especially the most innocent ones. Because the Jesuits and Masons doing this are the most benevolent ones. Standing homo pedo necro cannibals. And almost nobody dares to speak out about it or ridicules it because they're brain controlled and tortured if they do discover the truth. Computer is very slow. So according to the Independent, G20 protest, thousands take to the streets driven by anger at climate change, inequality and Trump. More than 100 people have been injured thus far, but no one died. So it's not another fake ISIS attack. So let's read the Express Co UK article for fun.
Welcome to hell. What are the G20 protesters protesting? Protests turned violent in Hamburg. Protesters hurled bottles and smoke bombs at police as demonstrations in Hamburg turned violent on the eve of the G20 summit last night. But why are G20 protesters protesting? By Alice Foster, published 11:30, Fri, July 7, 2017, updated 11:37, Fri, July 7, 2017. At least 76 police officers were injured during clashes with a group of hardcore anti-capitalist protesters who rampaged through the streets of Hamburg last night. Police fired water cannons and pepper spray at hundreds of black-clad protesters who threw bottles and smoke bombs and set cars and rubbish ablaze in streets. The pilots of a police helicopter even sustained eye injuries when laser pointers were directed at them, police said. The Welcome to Hell protest was disrupted by violence last night, with the most hardcore protesters continuing to riot into the night. Related articles: G20 2017 countries. Who are the members of the G20? German riot police use water cannon at violent G20 protests. The slogan "Welcome to Hell" was the protesters' greeting for Donald Trump and other world leaders arriving for the two-day G20 meeting today and tomorrow. Hamburg police said that about 1,000.
So it's clear to me that these pedophiles, the Jesuits that control the NSA, are selectively blocking this broadcast. You can see the dropped frames. So it's done by their neural network. It's done selectively to erase special parts of this broadcast that they have pre-selected. The neural network has selected them. So it's done tactically. And it's illegal interference with evidence of planned genocide, the two-state solution, world war, and their depopulation methods, and also evidence of directed energy weapon torture. And the main thing is they're depopulating Earth for Luciferian totalitarian global government, which is also advocated by the Jesuit Pope Francis Bergoglio.
Protesters refused to take off masks, and those in 2 black blocks used bottles, sticks and iron rods against the officers. It added that several barricades, rubbish containers, wooden pallets and cars were set on fire, while traffic signs were ripped out during the clashes. Police expected around 100,000 protesters.
So everything seems to be about it. They are focusing on not on what it's about, but on what they've done, what their police provocateurs have done basically, and their Antifa people have done. The smashing of the windows, and throwing cop cars, etc.
In the port city, some 8,000 of whom are deemed by security forces to be ready to commit violence. At least 13,000 protesters joined the main march on Thursday, including around 1,000 black-clad and masked anarchists, police said. Protests against the G20 summit take place every year as anti-capitalists and anarchists take.
So I doubt if the real anarchists, probably Antifa and police provocateurs.
The chance to protest and vent their fury. Hamburg police and demonstrators violently clash at G20 protests. Mute current time 0 o'clock, duration time 0 o'clock. Welcome to Hell. Organizer Andreas Blechschmidt said the motto is a combative message.
So they want to pretend they are anarchists and zombies, and these elements are not most people of the demonstration. You can see most people were not wearing black, though there was a large group of those as well.
But it's also meant to symbolize that G20 policies worldwide are responsible for hellish conditions like hunger, war and the climate disaster. Blechschmidt told AFP that activists would seek to blockade access to the summit venue and, as usual, reserve for themselves the option of militant resistance against police. The G20 Welcome to Hell website gives details about protests and describes itself as an autonomous and anti-capitalist alliance against the G20 summit in Hamburg. The website said the demonstration on the eve of the G20 summit's eve would express protest and resistance, radical critique and practice against the patriarchal and capitalist state of affairs. G20 summit.
Is that because they do not want to label themselves as communists, or are they something else than communists? We have to put them in some kind of box. Label them as something, you know. Or not. So are they communists or what? You can always Skype me, Prologic999 on Skype. But it's a sunny day, so I guess many people are in the sunshine. Many people are on holiday in the Netherlands. They've taken a holiday to France or perhaps to other countries where they will have more ISIS attacks.
protests. Live pictures for July 7, 2017. The Welcome to Help protest march ahead of the G20 summit in Hamburg turned violent as burning barricades were erected and riot police called in. Play slideshow. Barricades burn as protesters clash with riot police during the protests at the G20 summit in Hamburg. Reuters. Win of 53. Barricades burn as protesters clash with riot police during the protests at the G20 summit in Hamburg. Barricades burn as protesters clash with riot police during the protests at the G20 summit in Hamburg. Anti-G20 protests on the first day of the G20 summit in Hamburg. Anti-G20 protests on the first day of the G20 summit in Hamburg. Protesters set barricades on fire during anti-G20 protests on the first day of the G20 summit in Hamburg. Protesters set.
So I wonder if it's even clear to themselves what they are protesting. What G20 policy are they protesting exactly?
Barricades on fire during anti-G20 protests on the first day of the G20 summit in Hamburg. Protesters set barricades on fire during anti-G20 protests on the first day of the G20 summit in Hamburg. Protesters set barricades on fire during anti-G20 protests on the first day of the G20 summit in Hamburg. It said, "We are mobilizing internationally to turn Hamburg into a location and an exclamation mark of resistance against old and new authorities of capitalism." Another website, named Hamburg City Strike, said that today's day of action aims to turn the city into a place of social conflict and show that capitalism is vulnerable. Related articles: German riot police use water cannon at violent G20 protests. Hamburg transformed into war zone by anarchist thugs in shock video. G20 live stream, how to watch Trump v Putin online. Recommended stories: Princess Diana's bridesmaid India Hicks goes topless in just white paint for royal party. Princess Diana's bridesmaid India Hicks goes topless in just white paint for royal party. Countdowns. Rachel Riley sends fans wild as she showcases pert bottom in very tight dress. Countdowns. Rachel Riley sends fans wild as she showcases pert bottom in very tight dress. Watch. Polish president's wife snubs Donald Trump handshake, and darts for Melania. Watch. Polish president's wife snubs Donald Trump handshake, and darts for Melania. Recommended by Login. 17 comments. Sword subscribers. 23 hours ago. Lost democracy. The opposite to capitalism is communism, and these rioters would be the first to be locked up if they achieve their aims. Reply share. 1 day ago. Theo Hall 65. Welcome to Hell. Organizer Andreas Blechschmidt said the motto is a combative message. But it's also meant to symbolize that G20 policies worldwide are responsible for hellish conditions like hunger, war and the climate disaster. War. So Trump and Putin agree to a ceasefire in Syria, yet Trump, a newly elected president, is responsible for all this stuff. What about the guy in office the 8 prior years who never got any kind of ceasefire in Syria? Reply share 1 reply, +2 23 hours ago. David Price Obama, the Nobel Peace Award winner, he allowed the JV team to destroy countless cities, forcing immigrants into Europe and destabilizing their economy. Now Trump has a mess on his hands. Reply share 2 days ago. Tor Christiansen 1. My dear father taught me to think and look constructively.
So don't label it a conspiracy theory if you're not sure that it's a conspiracy fact, if it's a conspiracy fact or conspiracy theory. Of course, the people doing the cancer chemtrail genocide want to pretend that it's just a theory to make people disbelieve it, not to get caught, and to continue their democide and tyranny with directed energy weapons to accumulate wealth and power. So it's definitely horrible. Everybody's being tortured and nobody can talk about it. And they're hurting my penis also. So I'm not surprised if the Jesuits and Masons are timer bombs. So because of the internet, people are learning who really did WTC, etc. 9/11. Called 911. So I used that call 911 sample. I made it myself. It's a recording from a video. I forgot which one at the moment, but this meant like be prepared and also armed to prevent having to dial that number. And it's usually too late already. And 911 is a joke, you could argue. But their joke is it's 9, 10, 11, not 9/11. So it's just satanic jokes. And the speech errors are made by the pedophile Jesuit infant eating trolls that have murdered my mother, that want you all dead. And they first want you to help, of course. They're always the ones to tell you where your enemies are, but they're never the ones to fight and to die, these creeps.
That is, if you look at a tree, it has dozens of branches and millions of leaves, incomprehensible if you look at all at once, but, looking first at the main trunk, then the branches and the collective impression of the leaves, you will arrive at the real picture, undisturbed by other distractions. Not what the majority thinks, not what is trendy, but you will look at it like Ayn Rand, reality. When you consider that a minority 3% of the global elite commands 95% or more of the Earth's wealth they are unable to spend in this lifetime, should there not be an upper limit, the excess of which are invested to acquire further vast fortunes, instead are placed in an international, public fund to help people not born with the same capability and intelligence to acquire life which can be lived with dignity, when enough is enough and there is nothing more to wish for except full control of humanity? There is something.
I think your question is too long, there are too many notes.
Very wrong with the global elite and their fantasy of an NWO which aims to eradicate the middle classes and turning the rest into obedient slaves. This is what should be discussed and agreed at these G20 summits. Reply share 2 replies. 1 day ago misspelt good commentor. I also used to have views against these people like the majority of the comments on this article, that is until I could see the woods for the trees. Yes, a lot of the anarchists are stupid venting their anger on the police, but you are correct in saying what should be discussed at the G20 won't happen though, as they represent the global elite who do not want to do the average person any favors. Reply share. 1 day ago Theo Hall 65 funny you mention Ayn Rand. This idea, giving to those who haven't earned it, is one to which she clearly was opposed. Redistribution of wealth doesn't work. Russia had to abandon it. Venezuela is a disaster right now due to it. It simply doesn't work. Reply share. +2 2 days ago Josephine Tilo, why not change the venue of the G20 summit? Reply share. +1 2 days ago Andy White, long overdue that their extreme violence from Antifa is met with real riot control and smash them of the planet. Dumb scumbags. Communist/fascist? Does it matter? There should be branded as urban terrorists and put down as such. When the gloves come off they will stop. Keep holding back and they will keep it up. Time to show them that this fascist.
I disagree. We're a civilized society and people can demonstrate without deaths, and if it were not for these rioters that visit these demos, then it would be a peaceful protest. And I think most people present are definitely 90 to 99% of them are peaceful protesters, not completely dressed in black covering their faces with weapons or explosives and things like that.
Left found out how we keep democracy against communism/fascism. Long overdue. Reply share. +2 2 days ago John Mac 5, when it becomes violent shoot them or drive over them in tanks.
So the theory is they can also give men titties with FIPA, through the wall radar, etc. Perhaps it's the lighting. Well, it's clear that I don't have boobs like females do, but yeah, I think that it can be hormonal disbalance, etc., caused by the directed energy weapon torture, including the birthmarks you can see. You can see it on pictures and on my other videos better. I'm not gonna mess with the camera now. But over here, along my jaw, you can see small birthmarks in a straight line, and that's from their dental torture. Also this spot here on the left side in my parotid gland, so the glands are also affected by this. So it's all because of the torture, and they do it deliberately, so their whole program is also to pretend I'm a troll, making people ugly and then pretending that it's their own shortcomings and their own fault, their own mistake, etc. So they have a whole smear campaign against me, and also many other targeted individuals. So targeted individuals are the best humans on the planet in reality, and the police and military take orders from these satanic pedophiles. And it will get worse and worse until the brain control machine is switched off and people take over. So they've expelled these Jesuits and Jews, and they make history repeat itself, so they're not going to be thanked for their demolition of the WTC, etc. Some people will thank them, of course, but I think most people know better, and the mainstream media is painting totally a picture that is totally out of sync with reality, basically. So the demolition of the WTC, of course, is proven beyond any reasonable doubt. The thermate dust in the street, analyzed by Dr. Jones. More about this in my previous broadcast as well. So yeah, I think it is pretty bad, and they do it with HARP. And it's also caused by plastic, so they want to blame it on plastic bottles, and I think that could be true as well. And I just should have some more movement and stuff. So I look a bit Buddha-ish, but well, it's not that bad. Perhaps they can bring back the real Hulk in the next Hulk movie. Oh yeah, let's read on. We were reading something, or I was basically myself as a viewer.
They have a right to protest, but violence is a crime, and mass violence like this should be met with equal or greater force. Reply share. +3 2 days ago Mad Mike, it is time to bring in the German army and destroy these anarchists and communists. Reply share. +4 2 days ago Armin Freimark Corbyn would feel at home under the protesters. Reply share 1.
So I think my theory is that there are also lots of women that don't really like skinny men as much as fatter men with some more fat. So if there are women that like me, they are very welcome to join me, smoke a peace pipe together, or for a free shield hand massage, or to sit on the balcony drinking some coconut, pineapple juice, real smoothie, or do other fun things like make a movie or broadcasts and stuff like that, music, whatever would be fun. But they're isolating me, so I doubt if anybody is gonna hear this broadcast. So I can say whatever I want. And anybody can, especially in the chats of live YouTube videos. There are more murder threats and things in there than on the internet. Apparently they are not really checking these chat messages, though I copy them sometimes. I've covered them in my previous broadcasts as well. Possibly illegal chat messages.
Reply. +4 2 days ago Mad Mike, the worthless mayor of New York City, is there, protesting. I hope he gets shot by the police. Reply share. +3 2 days ago Brazil, Pat, left-wing fascist will turn violent against anyone who is not a violent left-wing fascist. Reply share. +8 2 days ago Robert Smith, spoiled, middle-class kids with little or no imagination and nothing better to do with their time. Reply share. +6 2 days ago there's always a reason. I suppose all these protesters are actually made up of immigrants, both legal and illegal. Reply share, +3 2 days ago Mijdrecht rubber bullets, this isn't a protest it's a riot, use troops not police to deal with riots. Reply share, +7 2 days ago and they really need to sort this lot out once and for all, who the hell do they think they are, they're no better than the scum our soldiers are fitting.
So perhaps we'll never find out what the protests are about, but basically about corporate greed. You have these elite pedophiles that are tax exempt, corporations, so they don't pay taxes while you all do, of course. And things like that. Climategate hoax is another point. And are they now going to audit the Fed? I haven't heard about that, which is one of the reasons why people voted pro-Trump. I'm still pro-Trump. So all the things I do to mock him basically are sort of reverse psychology kind of thing. It's just showing that even if you try to be anti-Trump, you cannot really come up with anything that is a better reason to be anti-Trump than the reasons to be pro-Trump. Is that a correct sentence? Anyway, here we see the camera, the other camera, showing the weather in Mijdrecht at the moment. So it is nice weather. Good day for the beach. It's about an hour's drive. My previous video is a panorama video of Scheveningen. I think that's a really nice video, so I hope you all watch it and like this video, and perhaps people can give me extra views, but perhaps it's nicer to keep it as low as possible, since people can put that counter on any number they want anyway. And I think lots of people are doing that, of course. About it also one of my previous broadcasts. So check my channel, click my name, and then you can see the thing. But I've learned to love my body. I could lose weight, but I feel better this way. I like being a bit fatter, a bit more weight. I felt too skinny, like I could be blown by the wind any second basically. And I'm nude in my chair, so I cannot show you the rest of my body, but they have definitely attempted to deform me with their directed energy weapons, also hurting my back, etc., to make a hollow back, etc. So they are working on that. They're doing things to depopulate, spending loads on fake Mars mission that they have planned, and on eco-tax and cancer chemtrails, etc., to depopulate Earth, not on controlling these 23 factors that control aging, but rather the opposite, depopulating and torturing rather than protecting and serving the taxpayers. So we need to unite against that, and hope that it's not too late yet, and lots of people are uniting. And I don't mean the controlled opposition Alex Jones people, but people that start for themselves and make their own movement, etc. Real opposition, real resistance to their democide and global government plans. And creating a global government is treason, of course. The Americans have taken an oath to protect the US against enemies, foreign and domestic, basically. So that includes people who want to get rid of the US to form a global government. Is what I claim, and they of course claim something else. They may always claim the opposite of what I claim. That's logical. So I guess that's it for now, and then I can do another broadcast. If I want to read another article, I can do a broadcast about it. That's the problem. No, I'm kidding, because I have so few views, etc. Though they may have put that number with wireless energy, they may have put it on one view, though I may have millions of views. Theoretically, the whole world could be watching. Yeah, and I still look better than average, so I think I'll get a nice woman to get married with and have a normal life. That I will find a way to get these critters out of my body. If these hybrid insect microelectric mechanical systems are in my body, then I hope the resistance will help me soon, like Neo in the Matrix 1, with the only real people live in Zion quote. So now we can enjoy the sunshine and make music, play along with copyrighted tracks. Olé. But I'd rather have sex.